the water, the accumulated water that came into their shops, into their homes, into their cars, into their lives. So things are very bad. And even 2 weeks after that catastrophic, outburst of rain, cloudburst, the water has still not receded. Water is still stagnant and stubbornly accumulated in various places throughout the city, and it's becoming very smelly and festering with diseases. So what is the importance of Karachi, which becomes such a painful experience every year, and the entire media of Pakistan focuses all of its lenses on Karachi, and everyone's talking about Karachi. But in the end, nothing happens that could ameliorate the conditions of Karachi and improve the lives of the Karachi people. So the importance of Karachi, quite naturally, as I'm sure you all know, lies in its financial and economic importance and contribution to Pakistan's GDP. Every year, nearly 69% of the total revenue that the government generates, that basically allows it to run its services and the country, comes from Karachi, which is the financial capital of Pakistan. It is a strategic port that gives us access to the Arabian Sea and the greater Indian Ocean region, and much of Pakistan's trade with the rest of the world is directed through the Karachi port, the Bin Qasim port, and other ports. It has a large population, and much of it is educated and skilled as well. So it is basically a hotbed of creating employment opportunities, businesses, innovation, technology, to whatever extent we have here in Pakistan. And it is also Pakistan's industrial sector, because a lot of large-scale manufacturing actually happens in the various economic zones and industrial parks established in Karachi. So many of the large multinational, fast-moving consumer goods companies such as P&G or Unilever actually manufacture many of their products in their plants in Karachi. So now let's look at why the systematic problems of Karachi exist and what are their nature and why they are so hard to basically solve, which is why they haven't been addressed to the extent that they should have been addressed in order to solve them, right? So first of all is a problem that there really is nothing that we can do about, which is the problem of overpopulation. Karachi has one of the highest square kilometer population density in the world. If any one of you has gone to Karachi like I have, you would know that there are too many people everywhere. So the census of 2017 put the population of Karachi at 15 million. But a lot of experts and everyone is contesting that figure because they think that the census data of Karachi was basically based along political considerations, and gerrymandering was widely used in order to readjust the boundaries of the Karachi electorate so that political advantages could be extracted from that boundary creation, because obviously it has direct impact on the elections. So in reality, a lot of people think that the population of Karachi is more than 20 million, 2 crore, from a low of 450,000 or 4.5 lakh back in 1947 when Pakistan got independence. Now, quite naturally, as I hope that you understand, that increasing population puts increasing pressure upon natural and civic infrastructure and resources, to the extent that the pressure becomes unsustainable and natural and civic infrastructure and resources start to deteriorate at a very high pace. And that is exactly what we've been seeing in Karachi for at least the last 30 to 40 years. Especially because the civic infrastructure, the civic facilities in Karachi have not really been upgraded or improved in the last odd 30 years or even more than that. For example, there is lack of potable water in Karachi. You simply can't have groundwater because it's too much brackish because of the sea, and there is no availability of drinkable water by any municipal corporation, by the Sindh government or the local government, and virtually all of the citizens of Karachi basically rely upon the tanker mafia, which charge very high fees to deliver water on a monthly basis or a weekly basis, tankers of water that come to your house, and then you fill your tank and then use it for the next couple of days before the next assignment comes in. And the tanker mafia is actually a quite lucrative business in Karachi, and it has emerged in the absence of the government's responsibility to fulfill the basic human need of access to potable, clean drinking water. And another pernicious problem in Karachi is that of a lack of land and real estate available for cheap, affordable housing. Many of the citizens, millions of citizens in Karachi actually live in poor, extremely dilapidated shanty towns, or what they call as slums and squatter settlements, which are among the largest in the world and certainly the largest in Pakistan. And the living conditions in those squatter settlements, in those slums, is beyond any comprehension that you can think of. I mean, people live in extremely small tents where there is no availability of clean drinking water, nutritious food, access to education, access to healthcare, access to opportunities of employment, and there is crime is festering there, diseases are festering there, AIDS is a big problem, typhoid, pneumonia, all kinds of evils that you can probably think of. The slums and squatter settlements all around the world, including in Karachi's slums and squatter settlements, are housing all of those evils. Moreover, Karachi has been consistently declared as among the 10 worst cities to live in, the least livable cities in the world for the past many years, and the things that I've just mentioned and explained to you are primary reasons for that, right? So the second most important problem of Karachi is that Karachi is basically, in geographic terms, below sea level, and there has been massive ecological destruction in the natural habitats and forest cover and mangrove regions and marshes that were present in Karachi before all of this ragtag and destructive development took place in Karachi. So, for example, the mangrove forest along the Arabian coastline, for example, in the Kimari Creek or other creeks, have been nearly completely destroyed by much of DHA Phase 8 or DHS Phase 7 or Clifton and other a lot of land reclamation development projects all around the creek, to the extent that now many of the residential and commercial projects are basically lying in area that was originally part of the sea, which begs the question, are they even safe from intrusion and from cyclones? Well, they're certainly not. The chances of urban flooding due to this fact that Karachi is already below sea level and much of its development, at least 1/5 of the land of the city, was originally part of the sea, or at least creeks or marshy lands, which were then rehabilitated and developed by land reclamation by throwing mud or sand or solid waste onto it to level it up and to create land so that projects, development, housing, commercial projects will be launched on it. Sea intrusion is a very real problem in the case of Karachi, because all of the brackish and extremely polluted rivers of Malir and Karachi are completely extremely deteriorated in terms of ecological quality, and they are extremely polluted, and their mouths are completely eaten up by the seawater, because seawater, also due to increasing global sea levels due to climate change, is also consistently making inroads into the deltas of these rivers, which is why these rivers really lack the capacity to take the strong water and altogether the water problems of Karachi away into the sea. The sewerage system is flawed because Karachi's level from the sea is not enough so that water from Karachi city would naturally and automatically drain out into the sea. So the third important problem is the outdated and broken civic infrastructure and services, primarily just like the rest of the Sindh as well. I mean, Sindh is a really underdeveloped province of Pakistan, and the kind of conditions that are prevalent across the Sindh, especially outside Karachi, rural Sindh, are so deplorable, they are so terrible, that people are living in subhuman conditions. They do not have access to clean drinking water, nutritious food, health, education, employment, crime is rampant, corruption is rampant, and all kinds of conflicts and feuds are always happening in rural Sindh. It's a very bad place to live in, and Karachi is just a microcosmos of what is happening in the rest of the Sindh as well. And the primary responsibility for that, I feel, should be given to the political party which has ruled Sindh for at least 12 years now, which is the Pakistan People's Party. But it is not the only culprit in the destruction and the orphan status of Karachi as it is. So presently there are 43 storm water drains or nallas located in Karachi according to the Orangi pilot project, which are primarily encroached by either Kachi Abadis, housing development projects, and even government infrastructure projects such as parking lots, such as bazaars and other kinds of government institutions and buildings. Moreover, the exit points of the largest of these nallas, which have the capacity to carry the most amount of rainwater away into the sea, their ends and their mouths from which they feed water to the sea are basically almost completely blocked or encroached upon by elite and very posh housing societies and other development projects such as DHA Phase 7, DHA Phase 8, Clifton, Vista Creeks, and all of these high-rise buildings and their very lucrative posh development projects, which have basically closed off the mouth of the storm water drain, which is why they are simply unable to carry the water into the sea, and the water stays back and creates urban flooding. Secondly, the solid waste management issue is one of the biggest issues of Pakistan generally and Karachi in particular. So solid waste has been accumulating in Karachi for at least 30 years now, and much of that is still in open dumping places all around the city, to the extent that there are mountains of waste scattered all around the city. You just have to take one drive along the main road of the city and you would see piles and piles of garbage everywhere. Now, the primary reason for that is that there are only 2 landfill sites for allocated for Karachi's solid waste. So what is a landfill? A landfill is a place where you have dug up a place of earth deep enough and you have secured it from any leakage, and then you basically dump all of your solid waste into it, and after some time, 10 or 15 years, you cover it up and you reclaim the land for any kind of purpose. So this is one of the ways of disposing of solid waste, although it's a very terrible way, but it's one of the better ways, I guess. Still very bad. Anyways, Karachi's waste, only 30% of it actually ends up in those 2 landfills. The rest of it is basically thrown out in the open using open dumping in various places around the city, even very sensitive places as near hospitals or schools or universities or government departments in their building. So from a low of 2,000 tons of solid waste generated per day, today Karachi stands at 15,000 tons of solid waste being generated every day, which is absolutely unsustainable and terrible for the ecological environment and the well-being of the people of Karachi. Now, the fourth and the most important perhaps problem of Karachi is criminally bad governance, and there are multiple factors for that. Now let's look at them. So first of all, I think there is a virtual absence of any good local government system in Karachi and generally in Sindh as well. The 2013 Sindh Local Government Act was a complete farce. It was a joke because it made the local government bodies of Karachi and other cities of Sindh toothless organizations with no real power or financial autonomy, whereas the government of Sindh, the PPP dominated government of Sindh, encroached upon the powers of local government and did considerable centralization of power to concentrate all of the power into their own hands, including nearly all administrative matters. So in that respect, I think the PPP is very hypocritical when it says that it would not tolerate any attacks on the 18th Amendment, because by not devolving power to the third tier of government in Karachi and in the rest of the Sindh, the PPP is complicit in violating the spirit of the 18th Amendment itself, because 18th Amendment and the devolution of power, that was the most important feature of the 18th Amendment, is incomplete without devolution to the most important ground root level of a democratic culture, which is the local government setup. So in that respect, I think PPP is the worst political party in Pakistan. It is both hypocritical and it is hungry for power and financial resources. We don't know what it does with those financial resources, but still it wants all that it can get its hand on. Now, why is the PPP government reluctant to give up power to the local bodies? Because it feels that if there are free and fair elections for those local bodies, it might just lose those elections, and the local bodies might be constituted of other political parties such as PTI or Noon League, because at least in Karachi, majority of the citizenry think that the PPP government is a complete failure, a complete farce, and it needs to be thrown out of the power corridor. But the people of Karachi alone can't do it. But in the case of local government, they could, which is why PPP, due to the fear of losing their milking cow, which is Karachi, they consistently, pull or push at least the problem of local government system under the bus. So the second problem regarding bad governance is that the administrative jurisdiction of Karachi is basically divided between 5 different administrative and municipal corporations and agencies, with constant turf wars happening all the time, and no one authority ready or willing to take responsibility for any of the problems of Karachi. And there is constant blame game, there is constant turf wars for what belongs to what. When it comes to advantages of administration, every agency wants to take ownership. When it comes to responsibility of administration, no civic agencies among the 5 that control Karachi is even willing to take an inch of responsibility for the conditions of Karachi. And thirdly, one of the most important pernicious problems of Karachi, at least until 2 years ago, has been ethnic violence, ethnic politics, identity politics, and the virtual division of Karachi along ethnic, religious, and administrative lines since the 80s. And I think that the Muhitta Qaumi movement and Altaf Hussain are primarily to be blamed for creating this sort of divisive and disuniting and very violent sort of politics, where political parties extort the people, the citizens of Karachi, in the name of protection. And it was a complete anarchic situation, at least until 2008, before the Rangers came, right? So that all led to extreme urban terrorism, street crime, gang war, the worst of the worst. Karachi was a sort of a war zone for a long period of time, and only Karachiites can understand that and feel that, and we must be compassionate towards them, especially being Lahoris. So these are the very deep-rooted problems that Karachi is facing, which is why, despite many governments giving packages to Karachi, those packages have never materialized in any sustainable development or amelioration in the conditions of Karachi ever since at least 1980s. And if this government, the PPP government this time, and the PTI federal government are serious about solving Karachi's problem, the first thing that they need to tackle is the administrative jungle, or the administrative khichdi which is present in Karachi. So thank you very much for your listening. Keep tuned in, because in the next lecture